Hi, it's Jeff Chalmers here from discoverdouble-bass.com, where you can go to learn all about the double bass. And today we are joined by a very special guest, somebody who has won the 2019 ISB Solo Competition. They have acted as guest principal with the Israel Philharmonic. They played with the New York Phil. They studied at Juilliard, where they won the double bass competition there. So it gives me enormous pleasure to welcome to Discover Double Bass. It's Nina Bernat. Welcome, Nina. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
Well, it's just so cool to meet you, and I think your story is absolutely incredible. And I was just saying earlier how sad I was that I was at the 2019 competition and I didn't see you perform, but maybe you could start off by telling us a bit about that experience and what was the program?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it was, I think, about a 40-minute program of music, which was a variety of things. Started out with 2 movements of Bach, which I believe were from the second suite. I played the 3rd movement of the Rachmaninoff Cello Sonata.
Wow.
And Battassini Sonnambula, Battassini Concerto. And that year, Sam Suggs actually wrote a new piece for the competition that all the competitors were required to play. So.
Sam is an incredible musician. Have you ever spent time with Sam? I mean, you're both kind of around the same area-ish.
Right, yeah. Only right after the competition.
Yeah.
I met him and I was like, oh gosh, I hope you like my interpretation of your piece.
Oh, I bet he did.
But yeah, besides that.
Was that in Ithaca that year, 2019? I'm trying to remember.
That was at Indiana.
Indiana. Oh yeah, Bloomington, Indiana. Yeah, that was a great event. And yeah, I mean, how did you feel winning the competition? It must have been a real kind of, I don't know, how was it?
It was amazing. The experience of the competition itself, aside from just winning, was a great learning experience, but also a great opportunity to just show up and meet a bunch of bass players, a lot of whom I had met previously. We all kind of in the same circle of summer festivals.
Did you know a lot of the other competitors, the other musicians,
I did.
Yeah.
Some of them I had gone to just the last year summer festival with, which was, I think, the past year Music Academy of the West, and then 2019 I showed up and in the finals was a fellow colleague from that.
Oh, I mean, it's a small world, the bass world, isn't it? And it's great to, I mean, congratulations. And one of the things that I noticed that you were awarded as a prize was a bow. And I was just thinking, what was the bow that you got? Because it doesn't say.
It's not that one.
Yeah.
I still have it. It's a great bow. It's by a maker named Radoslavovich.
Okay.
Who makes a lot of great bows. That a lot of my colleagues actually use. I had no idea what the bow was going to be.
Was it a German bow or was it?
It was a German bow, yeah. I think they had set up one French bow and one German bow from Guarneri House, who generously donated it.
Wow. Well, it must be an incredible thing, and hopefully we will get to see a recital at the next ISB convention. Did you perform as part of they had an online one last year, didn't they?
Yeah, I posted, I submitted material for that, but.
Yeah, let's get the real people in the room, and hopefully, I mean, we're really looking forward to that. Have you been to many other ISB conventions before? Has it been part of your life as you've grown up with music, or was it something new for the competition?
That was actually my first time being to an ISB convention.
Wow.
I've been sort of following the whole thing my whole life, obviously with my dad, and he's been to plenty and has given recitals at several of them. But that was the first one. We were living in Iowa at the time, so we just made a quick drive over there. So it was, yeah.
Oh, I had an incredible time that year and really enjoyed it. And I think I've been to 3 now, and I'm looking forward to the next one. And one of the things that was really interesting to me is that your origin story, that your dad is obviously a renowned bass player as well. So, I mean, what are your earliest memories of the bass? Are they in the house? How did it?
Before I was born.
Yeah.
Bass was just always, not just bass, but music.
Yeah.
Was part of my family. My mom was a cellist.
I didn't know that.
Before I was even born, I was hearing music, and shortly after I was born, my older brother began piano and violin. So it's just always, I've just assumed everybody else's family was like that too. So I was just born into this kind of scenario where it was not expected, but just natural that I would have chosen an instrument, which wasn't bass at first. It was actually piano.
Yeah.
But after I think age 7, I started to look at my dad and be like, that's cool. Maybe I'll.
What was one of the pieces that you kind of enjoyed hearing when you were younger that maybe got you excited about the bass?
I think Bach,
Yeah.
solo Bach suites. I mean, that's kind of my dad's thing, and just has become part of like a morning routine for me. And he actually just re-recorded all 6 suites.
Really?
That was a pandemic project, and it's not released yet, but.
That's a perfect pandemic project. I imagine that would have been really special. And was he? I mean, obviously he was your first teacher. I mean, nobody else could have been. But what was that experience of studying with your father like? I mean, it was. Yeah, maybe you could speak a little bit about that.
That is an interesting story. We like to say that for a lot of people it wouldn't have worked, but for our specific personalities and our relationship, it was just perfect, I think.
Oh, that's so good.
I think I just respected. I mean, I was a bratty teenage girl, and we went through phases in him being like, "Okay, this is the last lesson you've got for me. Go to a real bass teacher now." But it just worked. I mean, we never really had real lessons. I was practicing, and he would come downstairs and start telling me like, "What do you think you're doing?" Or he would be practicing upstairs, I'm practicing downstairs, and all of a sudden I'm hearing a phrase that I'm playing.
Oh, wow.
And like, I'm always being listened to. And I think while that was very annoying sometimes,
That's so interesting.
It was really helpful for just learning.
Yeah, you have this sort of fluency around the instrument that it just seems so natural. And I'm guessing that starting so young and being brought into the bass. When did you start on a sort of a fractional size instrument, or?
Yeah, it must have been an 8th size, pretty much a cello.
Yeah.
And gradually worked my way up. And I didn't get a really professional level instrument until I was 16 or 17, when it was clear that I was going to continue. Because for a while it was a question.
Yeah, well, I think for all of us, as you're growing up, which way you're going to go. And I mean, so who was the person who you look to next? I mean, you've been studying with your dad. I mean, in terms of teachers and potentially even other bassists who are inspiring you, who are the players and the teachers that you maybe moved to next that helped you progress beyond what you'd done with your dad?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, when I was growing up, I was like, there are other teachers that I can study with other than my dad, and even he was scared at that idea. But I think when I was 14, I started going to the usual summer music festivals.
Yeah.
And I started getting in touch with all these people, or studying with other people, and meeting teachers. And I think my first teacher that I had heard of that people were like, maybe you should take a lesson with him, was Hal Robinson, who I met at one of those early summer festivals that I did. And from there, I started just sort of jumping around to different people for trial lessons, starting to get close to college auditions. And
did Hal help you with orchestral excerpts? And I always imagine that he would be somebody really exciting to speak to about that. And principal bass player of the Philadelphia Orchestra, he's knows a thing about it. Or was it solo or everything? Or, what kind of stuff were you working on with him when you?
Yeah, I think at that time when I was 15 or 16, orchestra excerpts were not really on my mind because of how I grew up with my dad. So that was something that I was like, oh, people actually like work on these and like take auditions and just play excerpts. So that was new to me. And when I started working with Hal and going to these orchestra festivals, I got introduced to a whole nother world of bass playing, really. And his lessons were definitely some of the formative experiences for me.
He's had a huge impact on the bass world. I mean, you mentioned the summer festivals. Is there one that you'd recommend to students who are perhaps at that stage that you think you really enjoyed, or for whatever reason, if you had to pick one, which one would it be?
That's tricky. I mean, my first festival when I was 11 was Interlochen, which I think is a lot of people's first festivals.
Yeah.
That was a strange experience, being the first time I was ever away from home. But for somebody more advanced, I went to Brevard, which is similar in that it's in the woods and you live in a cabin. And then from there, I went to Summer Music Institute with the NSO. So just a lot of orchestral festivals and sort of working my way up into like the college level ones. I did NYO, which was great. We got to tour and just, I was really lucky with the summer festivals that I was able to go to.
Yeah. And what about Juilliard? You're doing a master's now? Is that what's the program? Yeah.
I'm almost done with my first year of master's.
Oh, congratulations. And so you studied with Tim, is that right, Tim Cobb?
That's right. I studied with Tim for 4 years, studied with Rex Serrani for split 2 of those years.
Really?
And now I study with Tim still, and I split with Astrid Schween, who's the cellist of the Juilliard Quartet.
Yeah, there's a lot I need to ask you about here, but one of the things I noticed that you were studying with Astrid, and was that because, I was interested to know, is that because you wanted to work with a cellist, because you wanted to work with Astrid, because you wanted to, like, what was the impetus, or is it just something that's offered to you? I don't know.
It was not offered to me. I had to really push my way in there. All of those reasons, actually. I think she's an inspirational musician in person for me. The cello repertoire is my second home on the bass, I think. So it felt natural to learn from the source and to see how that might affect my interpretation of things and even my technique. And yeah, it sort of happened with chamber music coachings first, where we really hit it off, I think. And she's so open-minded about teaching the bass. And
does she teach other bass students as well, or are you the only one at the moment?
Just me so far,
So cool. How about playing in fifths? Has that ever crossed your mind, or is it not something that you would fancy doing? I'm just thinking about like Joel Quarrington or somebody,
Right. I haven't taken that step yet. I've solo tunings as far as I've gone so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if my brain could really.
And Tim Cobb, I mean, principal of the New York Phil, I mean, huge pillar of the double bass world. And interestingly, he studied with his father and you studied with your father. I wondered if you'd ever kind of compared notes on that experience.
Yeah, I think we sort of commiserated about that a little bit, the ups and downs of that. And I think for him, it's the same kind of thing where bass and music was sort of part of his life. So I think we were able to be on the same page as far as just basic level of having music in life.
Yeah. And has it always been German bow? Has this always been the path you've taken? There's been a lot of French bow influences in your life as well.
I know. For better or for worse, I have stuck with the German bow. That's what I'm good at, so that's what I do.
It feels right.
I think so, yeah.
Was your father plays German bow? I mean, the videos that I've seen,
He's German bow, so I started out with his bow. This is his bow. This is his bass.
Yeah, I was going to say this bass is absolutely. Let's just maybe move on to this for a moment because you pull this out the bag and this is one heck of an instrument. I mean, wow. Where's it from? Tell us a little bit about it, and maybe we could hear a few notes as well.
Absolutely. Well, this is a bass attributed to Guadagnini, who's a very famous violin maker, which would date it to early 1700s, and it's had a life before it came into my hands, for sure, with my dad, and before that, for hundreds of years.
Could you maybe turn it around a little bit so we can see the back and the sides? And it's just such, I mean, it's slightly narrower ribs. It's a petite instrument, would you say?
Very skinny.
Yeah.
And, I think more of 5/8,
I'd
possibly.
say so, yeah.
Flat back, single piece of wood.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really lucky to have the honor to play on an instrument like this.
I mean, it's wonderful because it seems, I said before, it really suits you. It feels like, you seem very comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Do you think instrument size is something that players need to be thinking about? Because we often, one of the questions that we get a lot from the audience when, is essentially is bass only for tall people?
Right. Well, I can firmly say that is false.
Good.
Well, I actually, until a few months ago, was playing, and I still do play for orchestra on Pullman, which is almost 7/8 size very large instrument. I'm not a very large person.
Yeah.
So throughout my life, I had run into as soon as I acquired that bass, I went to college and people were like, aren't you in pain? Don't you
Yeah.
want to have a smaller instrument? You'll sound better because you won't be reaching so far. And I would just get pissed off and be like, I think, what I did with it was fine, and it felt good to me.
Yeah.
And back then, I'm still young, but because of the physicality of the instrument, it wears down on you. But there's all sorts of. The good thing about bass is it's not a standard size instrument.
It's the best thing and the worst thing.
It's also the worst, as I know, trying to find.
This is a
buy and
really
borrow.
I just think it's wonderful because the fact that your father happens to own a bass that maybe was, I don't know how perfect it was for him, but it certainly seems perfect for you. So there's a very happy coincidence here.
It definitely worked out.
He could have owned this beautiful old 7/8 kind of, 5-string or something that maybe wouldn't have been quite, in the path that you're taking. It's absolutely stunning. And can we maybe hear a few notes? Because I'm sure people will be looking and thinking, how does it sound?
Yes, so I have solo strings on now. So
Okay.
we've got. So my favorite thing about it, it's with a lot of solo instruments, it's hard to find a balance across the registers. So in the high register, it's very, very crispy, I think, and bright, and has a lot of character. And on the bottom, it's also very warm, and you have this contrast of colors, and across the strings, can just infinite amount of things that you can do.
Is that? Is the string length slightly shorter as well? Do you think, or
Yes.
you're not sure?
I can't give you a number on it,
But it feels a little shorter.
it's definitely. Going from my Pullman to this bass,
Yeah.
it's all of a sudden my hand scrunches up.
It's it's absolutely glorious. And what do you think's next in terms of your career? I know that you're really interested in transcription, and what kind of repertoire are you excited about playing next? What's kind of on the horizon for you?
So you just heard tiny snippets of Schumann's folk songs, 5 folk pieces for cello. And this is a project I've been working on for a few months now. I've been hearing them, and I'm like, why can't I play this on the bass? And then I looked at the music, and I'm like, oh, that's why. But I've slowly been picking away at it and finding my way through it, and I think it actually works quite well, and it's really exciting to see something sort of come together like that.
What are the kind of common challenges with cello repertoire on the bass? Are there kind of issues that you see that come up again and again?
Register, first of all. The very first thing that I do with the transcription is just see which tuning I'm supposed to play, and there's so many options for transcribing something. So am I going to play this a step up, a step down, and then what key would that put me at?
Yeah.
Because a lot of things, when you transcribe them down a step, it's just like 400 flats. So
Right.
this ended up working because we're in A minor, but so that's got open G.
Yeah.
And then, of course, cello's tuned in fifth, so a lot of the chords are just impossible.
That's what I was thinking.
So it's a fun challenge to just see, would this sound absolutely terrible if I did this down the octave? Would it sound terrible if I dropped a note here or there? And then, of course, it's so personal to whoever's doing it, which is why I love it. It's just like, this is my version of this piece, and there's notes missing here, so check the manuscript. But
what about the cello suites? You mentioned your father playing the cello suites and recording them recently. When you hear him play them, and you've got your own interpretation, what are some of the other interpretations that you particularly enjoyed, that you've been drawn to of the cello suites? I'm thinking maybe the Edgar Meyer record, what have you?
Yeah, I'm lucky, or everyone's lucky to have access to so many great recordings now. Of course, I've been through all of the bass ones, all of my dad's, and the cello recordings, Honor Bylsma, and a lot of the Baroque players are quite inspiring. It's just there's such wide range going from Casals or Rostropovich to somebody like Honor Bylsma or Jan Vogler or something like that. Or Yo-Yo Ma or Misha Maisky. It's just there's an unlimited amount of interpretations of it, even in just like the basic notes and the chords that we play. So, which makes me feel a little bit better about
it's this incredible space, isn't it? That everyone can kind of put their stamp on it. I mean, would you mind just playing a few bars? Because I'd love to hear some Bach on this beautiful bass.
Sure.
Beautiful. I absolutely love the way that you play. It's just so, you make it look so effortless. Is there, what's your approach to, do you have a particular approach to left hand technique? Is there anything different about what you're doing? Where does it come from?
I mean, it's hard to say since I started so young, and I feel like I've sort of developed things that fit for myself and not necessarily for others, but I think staying flexible and sort of, I played piano when I was younger, so having individuality of fingers and reaching is, I think,
your vibrato is just gorgeous as well. I really love the way that you're expressing the notes. It's got a real singing quality to it. And
thank you.
You did this great performance with your dad, which was you were playing a cello duo, Barriere.
Yeah.
That was so cool. I found that on Instagram and I was like, wow, this is amazing. We'll definitely provide a link to that below. But just kind of wrapping things up with a few sort of final questions. I mean, you're studying at one of the kind of great institutions, with some of the best teachers. What does your practice routine look like? What's it kind of looking like for you, your experience at the moment at this later stage of your studies?
Well, depending on the time of year and what I have coming up, it changes drastically.
Yeah.
Within however many hours, 4 hours to 6 hours to 2 hours to 0 hours. Right now, a lot of my practice is not with the instrument, actually. I find that just sitting down with a recording and the score and doing that transcription work and just getting inspired, going to a lot of concerts, being in New York City.
Yeah.
And that is just as helpful, I think, as practicing the instrument. And then I'll spend all the rest of my day just practicing or
and what's next in terms of, where do you see yourself going? Because I mean, the world is wide open to you, and you're more interested in solo playing, chamber music, or orchestra. Kind of what do you think? Where might you see yourself in a few years' time?
I would like to know that myself. For me right now, I find a lot of satisfaction in doing transcription work and performing. I'm going to 3 different chamber music festivals in the Northeast this summer, which I'm really looking forward to. Playing chamber music, playing with other people in a smaller setting where I can be heard and be heard through how I talk about music with others. That's just my favorite thing, I think, just like sit and eat lunch with a bunch of musicians.
I think it's great. Well, I just really want you to be getting out there into the wider world, beyond the bass world, so people can hear what our instrument can do. And I think you just present it so beautifully. Just random kind of question to finish up. I'll put you on the spot really with this one. I'm just thinking about other exciting players of your generation, and who is there that you've been kind of really excited about? You maybe want to give a shout out to. I always love learning about maybe new players. That we've spoken a lot about people like Hal Robinson and Edgar Meyer and what have you, but maybe who are some of the younger players that you're really excited about hearing when they play the bass?
Actually, I was just talking about this. There's a lot of great players in Europe that I'm sure you're familiar with. I just came across James Wessey.
Oh, yeah.
I think has been here.
We had the pleasure of James's company, and he's a wonderful, inspiring person.
Yeah, I love how many different things he can do and how open-minded really is. I think there's a lot going on that I'm excited about, and I hope I can meet some of these people.
Yeah, well, I mean, James is great in the Dutch Double Bass Festival. We had a blast there in Rotterdam, and you know, hopefully you'll be getting over there at some point and exploring Europe and playing some recitals and things. I think you and him would really get a lot out of each other's playing. I definitely hear a commonality there. So listen, Nina, thank you so much for joining us. It's just been a real blast to hear you play. What we might do, if you're okay and you don't mind sticking around, is possibly ask you to do a short performance, and we might be able to cut to that in a minute. But before we do, where can people find out about you online? Where should we direct people to learn more about you and your music?
I have a minimal online presence. You can find me on my website, and I post on Instagram.
Well, I would recommend to people to go and check out your posts on Instagram, because they really are cool. I really enjoyed them, and especially the performance with your dad. There was just something so personal about that. And when we're next in New York, maybe we can get Mark and yourself, and hopefully arrange some kind of a duo, because that would have made my day if we'd have been able to make that happen this time. But when we're next back. So thanks so much for joining me, and thank you so much for watching at home. All of the links for these videos are provided below. Practice hard, and we'll see you next time.